guys can see, one obvious trait of the tracker is how it's heavy in the front. One of the benefits of this is to use that weight like a hatchet or a small handheld axe. Makes it a little bit better at chopping. That extra weight really helps you get leverage on it, especially when you kind of hold it back a little bit. It's another little advantage of the tracker. Another nice advantage of the tracker is you notice the quarter round section right in between this wider part of the blade and this draw knife part of the blade that's a little bit more narrow in the profile. One thing that you can do is quickly make very nice curls. You guys can see it's not very common to pull a knife towards you. There's obviously inherent danger in doing that, but it's very controllable. So what you do is brace everything and you pull this back. You guys can see some of the curls I'm making. Very nice, fine curls. This is one of my favorite features of this blade, is just using that quarter round feature to your benefit. Take a look at that, guys. That's just after a minute or so. Another benefit of that quarter round in the blade profile, right in here, is the ability to use that like a gut hook if you're gutting an animal. Run this along the inside of the animal, like if you're going to gut a deer and you want to go inside. It's not too deep to where you're going to rip into organs and the guts and make a mess of it, of all the meat and everything that you're working with. Another nice little benefit of this quarter round section right in here. Pretty neat. Another thing too worth mentioning is this section of the blade profile right in here is kind of like a draw knife. You kind of brace this up against your chest, and you can use both hands and you can pull this up with the draw knife. If you have to round an edge, or you want to make a bow, or you're trying to make something out in the woods, bigger curls, try and shape a piece of wood for whatever reason, this draw knife, that's a good way to go about it. You guys can see it's no longer a stiff edge on that piece. It's nice and rounded. Other thing worth mentioning is the saw on the back of on the top of the spine of the blade. There's a bunch of different variations of this saw. Dave Beck has a really nice one on his wilderness survival knives, or his tracker style knives. This is more of a basic design. It's on here, and it's nice to have for notching. If you need to notch, it's a notching tool. Let's see here. You can see that got a decent notch started here, and if for whatever reason out in a survival situation or for recreation you want to set up multiple pieces of wood to go together, and you had some twine or really anything, cordage of any kind, you could lash a few pieces of wood together, whether you're making a trap or something like that. Make it pretty easily, and this definitely helps with that, with being able to notch everything out. Another nice thing about the notching is if you had to break a bone in a survival situation, or if you had nothing else to do it, the notch would allow you to, the notching at the top of it would allow you to score a section on the bone and then break it one way or another. Another thing a lot of people use that for is lifting a bale on the top of a pot in and out of a fire so you don't get burnt. There's no reason why you can't use the draw knife portion of the blade to make a square notch or an L notch, just the same as you would with a regular knife. It's all whatever you want to do depending on your application. Here's an example of a trap you could carve with the tracker knife. This is a figure 4 trap. I carved this exclusively with the tracker knife. You can see there's a series of notches and grooves on each piece of the trap. And this is just one of the examples of what you can use the tracker knife for. You might notice too on some tracker style knives there's a hole up here in the blade profile. A lot of times what that's used for is fine-tuning arrows that you might be making. A lot of the newer ones that are manufactured, wilderness survival knives and other knife manufacturers, they removed that. It wasn't really heavily sought after feature to have on these knives, and furthermore, it's just a little bit, it's a concern with the strength of the blade, being able to keep that on there. The front of this knife, as you guys can see, there's a nice piercing point at the end of it. And if you kind of look at the blade profile, that goes right in line with the handle for the most part. And a lot of these knives vary a little bit because there's so many variations of the tracker style. But in general, it's good for piercing situations, or scenarios where you want to pierce a piece of wood. Like if you were going to make a bow drill and you had a hearth board, you'd want to start with a hole. It's very good for getting started and working on getting that hole started to try and make a fire with a bow drill. So that's another benefit to it for sure. A lot of people have pointed that out. It's important though. There's a lot that you can do with the spine that's above the draw edge side of the knife. The draw knife spine, I should say. It's got a nice 90-degree spine on it, so you could use it for a ferro rod. You could use it for fleshing out a hide, and all things considered, it's kind of nice too if you were, say, gutting an animal, like just say you were skinning out a deer or processing it, something like that. You're able to grab the knife and hold it in different positions to try and, as you pull the hide away, try and pull back the flesh and skin it out. Tracker style knives are often misrepresented and not used correctly. They're loved by some and hated by others. But one thing for sure, there's really nothing that looks like them. They have a very unique look and they can do quite a bit. If you're on the fence about buying a tracker style knife, I would encourage you to do some research. There are a ton of reputable knife manufacturers out there that make them. They're typically kind of expensive, but there are some knockoff ones out there that you could buy, not have that much tied up into it, and then you could kind of test out the knife and see overall what you think of the design. Because they're so controversial, so to speak, like I said, you'll get some people that'll tell you they really like them and some people that don't like them at all. But I think it's worth getting one and practicing for yourself and then practicing some more, because just like anything in life, the more that you use it, the better that you'll get with it, and if you want it bad enough, you'll be able to master it with time. That's how these knives are. That's like that with pretty much any skill, quite honestly. But I think it's worth making your own opinion about them because they are pretty cool. And if they work for you, they usually work really well, and it's quite a tool. I think all knives can be considered tools, but tracker style knives are a little bit more, in my opinion. Whether it's, the heavy front end that's good for chopping, kind of like a hatchet, the draw knife section, the quarter round right here, and all the different things that you can do with the quarter round section, and the saw-like feature that's at the top of the spine here, with all the notching capabilities it has, and the overall footprint of most of the tracker style knives. It's a big knife, and there's so many things you can do with it. If you can't tell, I'm really fond of this knife. I like tracker style knives. I think they're really cool and they're just fun to use. So I would say overall check them out, and like I said, do some research on them, and if you're on the fence about buying one, thumbs up from me. For those of you that are interested, this knife is a custom style tracker knife. I'll include all the specs down in the description below about this knife, or most of the specs, and also the story about how I got this knife will be in the description below. So be sure to check that out because it's a really cool story if you aren't familiar with it. Tops makes some pretty popular tracker style knives. Probably like the most common tracker style knives that you'll see is like the T1. It's I believe the largest and the most commonly seen tracker style knife. I'll include some specs on those knives also down in the description below if you're interested in that sort of thing. Also, if you're into wilderness survival, if you're into self-reliant lifestyle, or tracker style knives in general, go check out Bushcraft USA. There's a wealth of information on that website. The people that are on that website and all the topics are more or less limitless. There's so much information on there, and there's a ton of good people on there who love to talk about it. It's a lifestyle, and it's definitely a lifestyle worth living. So it's completely free. I would recommend wholeheartedly go on there, go check out Bushcraft USA, become a member, and just learn, talk to people, and it's worth the time, trust me. My goal here with this video was to make a video that this knife was deserving of. I hope that this video helps you guys and kind of shows you some of the capabilities of this knife. There's a lot of things this knife can do that I didn't go over in the video, but it's very unique and it deserves a little bit of recognition. So I hope it helps you. I hope this video might get you interested in going outside or making a fire or just having some fun. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. There'll be more videos of this guy in the future. Thanks. See you in the next one.